Yeah, Anna Soubry talks about campaigning a lot for a second referendum. I'm just wondering why the Change UK MPs are not standing by-elections in their constituency. Right. Surely the circumstances have changed there.
I can answer that. Am I to answer that question?
I was going to come on to that later, but since we're on it, why aren't you fielding a candidate in the Peterborough by-election?
My values and my principles and what I believe in has not changed at all. And my principles and my values have not changed.
It's been talked about that we could have another general election shortly. How could the two of you possibly stand on the same manifesto? Listening to you, you couldn't.
We can't, and I didn't actually stand on our party's manifesto in 2017. The last thing we want is a general election.
Towards an election in 50 days' time. Joining me now is the Conservative MP Anna Soubry, of course a former minister and a loud supporter of Remain. Welcome.
But we've moved on from that. This is the whole point, which we need to get over.
Well, OK. First of all, I've got to ask you, will Tory voters vote for you? Because, you know, we've had all this talk of enemies of the people and the rest of it, and a suggestion that Tory Remainers are somehow traitors and traitors to Theresa May.
I think most people, when they see some of the unpleasant headlines, see them for what they are, which is unacceptable. Yeah, we've just got to move on, which is why I corrected you. I voted and I believed in Remain. I lost the referendum. I was one of the first people to support Theresa May. People forget that, I think. And yes, I want the best deal. So does Theresa May. That is what this is all about now. I've accepted the result. And the other thing which would be really helpful if the media remembered that with the exception of Ken Clarke, every Conservative MP, including myself, voted for something, i.e. for the Prime Minister to trigger Article 50. Yeah, but you say this, Adam, but you don't often report that. So I'm called all these names. I voted effectively for Brexit, even though I didn't believe in it, because I've honoured my promise to my electors. And my principles and my values have not changed.
Chuka said he couldn't work with Tony Blair because the former Prime Minister wants to reverse Brexit or hold a second referendum.
Well, then I agree with Chuka. I accept the result.
If Tony Blair says we should have a second referendum, Sir John Major too, would you back them?
No, I don't think we need a second referendum. I lost the referendum. I've accepted the result. I've voted effectively for Brexit because I've honoured my promise to my electors. This is the lack of honesty which is absolutely destroying politics in this country.
The last thing the country needs right now is a general election or any kind of by-election. We haven't changed. What we stood on our values, our own leaflets, our own campaigning when we stood in 2017, none of that has changed.
This is democracy. We might not all like the result. I was a Remainer. But the minute we start ignoring the democratic will of the people in this country, we are slipping very quickly towards the kind of banana republic I don't want to live in. So we have to accept the result.
The referendum was a different kind of vote. It was a national question. It wasn't a local one. And I know that probably the majority of people in this room tonight will think, well, we don't want it. But we can't forget that this was a national vote. And I think it's wrong for us as democratic leaders to be picking and choosing the results that we don't like.
So quite frankly, if I'm re-elected as your MP, I am not going to waste time, precious time, resisting Brexit from happening. I'm going to grasp that opportunity, leverage that opportunity we have with every fibre in my being and make the best of it.
I think those that voted to leave would think we were treating them as fools.
And what we've had is 3 years of broken promises, 3 years of our decision being constantly watered down, 3 years of being told we didn't know what we voted for. How dare you?
And that they were stupid and we didn't respect their views, so I feel a second referendum is not, thank you, is not what we should be aiming for.
And my principles and my values have not changed. This is the lack of honesty which is absolutely destroying politics in this country.
You, the British people, will decide. This is a once-in-a-generation vote.
This is the once-in-a-lifetime decision.
This is a decision, a once-and-for-all decision. It's not. We will not be taking a decision like this again in our lifetime.
There won't be another referendum on Europe. This is it.
This is a one-off choice between staying in or leaving completely.
If we as a country decide to quit, then we're out for good. There's no going back.
There's no second vote.
There will be no second referendum.
No, I don't think we need a second referendum.
The referendum is clear and has to be accepted, and we can't have a rerun of the question that was put to the country.
I say that with all the conviction and all the sincerity I have. It's so important, this decision.
If we vote to leave, then we will leave.
If people vote to leave, we leave.
You vote to leave, we're out. That's it. We're going.
Whatever the result is, we have to respect it.
We respect the result of this referendum.
And Parliament should respect that referendum result. We've said that all the way through.
Whatever the British people decide, we work together constructively to make that happen.
I don't think it would be right for Parliament to try and unravel the decision that the public have made.
The British Parliament should deliver what is required of that decision of the British people.
I am not going to waste time, precious time, resisting Brexit from happening.
We will be the European Union on the 29th of March 2019.
We'd be out of the single market.
We're leaving the single market.
Right.
We're leaving the customs union.
In March 2019, we will cease to be full members of the single market and the customs union.
You have 2 years to negotiate. At the end of those 2 years, you are out, and you have to operate under World Trade Organization rules.
No deal would be better than a bad deal.
Yes, you said that repeatedly.
Yes.
And it will be the final decision.
And if anybody is in any doubt, we are going to leave the European Union on the 29th of March 2019.
But you did vote for an MP, you had two choices, who said they would honour the result of the referendum. And then we saw 500 MPs vote for Article 50. Which said we were leaving on the 29th of March this year with or without a withdrawal agreement. Did we leave on March the 29th? No, and what we've had is 3 years of broken promises, 3 years of our decision being constantly watered down, 3 years of being told we didn't know what we voted for. How dare you, Nick Clegg? How dare you, Tony Blair? How dare you, George Osborne? How dare you, Anna Soubry? That gets the biggest boo all over the country, which may well indicate how wonderfully well her new political creation are going to do on the 23rd of May. They call themselves Change UK. They don't want to change a darn thing. Have you seen their logo? It looks like a Sainsbury's checkout barcode. It does. But what we've had from all of those people is the attempt to water down, to delay Brexit. But we had a Prime Minister who stood up and told us 108 times that we were leaving on March the 29th. A Prime Minister who has told us over and over again that we'd take back control of our laws, our borders and our money. And a Prime Minister who has turned out not just to be the worst Prime Minister in the history of this nation, but the most duplicitous and dishonest one as well. Her withdrawal treaty is something that would only ever be signed by a government that had been defeated in war. She has reduced us to a stage of national humiliation. She has made us a laughingstock in the eyes of the rest of the world, and yet her own gutless, spineless, career politician MPs haven't had the courage to get rid of her. Well, I've got a bit of advice here. I think if enough of us vote for the Brexit Party on May the 23rd, she'll be sent packing. Let's do it. And I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, when you think about it, we have had a continuous parliament in this country for 800 years. We are the nation that developed the very idea of parliamentary democracy. We are the nation that sold that concept to dozens of countries all over the world post-1945 with decolonisation. We are the country whose parliament is known as the mother of parliaments. And yet, can you imagine if in an African country the result of an election was overturned? They'd be screaming blue murder, wouldn't they? And this morning we learnt that the mayoral election in Istanbul a couple of weeks ago, in which Erdogan, the Turkish leader's candidate, did not win, guess what they're going to do? They're going to rerun the election. And guess what everyone's saying? The Foreign Office are saying it's an outrage to ask people to vote again. Mr. Juncker said, which goes to show they must have caught him before lunch, because he can't say much afterwards, believe you me. No, I like Jean-Claude Juncker. He makes me realise I haven't got a drink problem. It's terrific.
Bit naughty.
But Juncker says it's an outrage. Guy Verhofstadt says it's an outrage. And yet, they're all happy because they did it with the Danes over the Maastricht Treaty. They told them to vote again. They did it twice with the Irish and told them to vote again. And they all think that we should vote again. Well, let me tell you something. It would be an outrage to have a second referendum on the same question if we hadn't first implemented the result. But there could be even worse. Because however low I thought Mrs. May and our political class had sunk, those negotiations that are going on in Downing Street right now are plumbing new depths. There is an attempt by the Labour and Conservative parties to put together a deal that would leave us trapped in a customs union, that would leave us aligned to single market rules. And what the Labour Party, what large sections of it are now pushing for, is what they call a confirmatory referendum. Doesn't that sound nice and fluffy? And what they mean by that is a choice to vote for the existing European treaties or for Mrs. May's new treaty, which in many ways is arguably worse than continued membership of the Union. They are trying, large swathes of our establishment are trying to take a real Brexit off the table. And let me tell you something. I did not spend 25 years of my life fighting and arguing that we should be a free, independent, self-governing, proud nation that reaches out to our real friends in the world. I didn't fight for that for 25 years to simply give up because our politicians don't respect the result of the referendum. And I got things wrong. I thought after that win, after that general election, after that vote for Article 50, I thought this was done because I thought we lived in a democratic country. I've learnt that we don't live in a democratic country, and I made a promise that if I had to return to the front line of this, then next time I said it would be no more Mr. Nice Guy, and I meant it. This fight now This fight now is about far more than just leaving the European Union. This is a full-on battle against the establishment and the vested interests in this country. We need to change politics for good in this nation. And they may well still underestimate us. But look what the Brexit Party has achieved in the space of 4 weeks. 4 weeks ago, we appeared like a jack-in-the-box. And look at the calibre and quality of people I'm sharing this platform with. People from every walk of life, people from differing political backgrounds. We are fighting, ladies and gentlemen, for the very principle of whether we're to be a democratic, free nation. This is not about left or right. It's about right or wrong, and we have right on our side. This is about how the rest of the world sees us. It's about our future. I love Anne's phrase. Either we leave the European Union meaningfully, or we have to make them leave. And I now am beginning to think that even if we do sweep the board on the 23rd of May, they still won't listen. I'm of the view that if they did force upon us a second referendum, and it was a reasonable question, and we voted to leave again, I still don't think this government and this parliament would actually deliver it. Now, I know it's tough in Peterborough. You keep being asked to vote. You voted, 19,000 of you, to get rid of your last MP. You voted again last Thursday, and we're asking you to go out and vote again on the 23rd of May. But I am not asking you to go out on the 23rd of May and simply stick 2 fingers up to the establishment, much as they deserve it. No, I'm asking you to become part of a movement that will fundamentally change British politics, a movement that not only will get us out of the European Union, but a movement that will break the current 2-party system, which serves nothing but itself. We need to update and modernise our democracy in this country. We need to start being proud of who we are as a nation. And we can do this. Already, 88,000 people in the space of 4 weeks have signed up their £25 to become registered supporters of this party. That's a commitment that people have made. And I would ask the over half of you in the room that have not done it to think of it in these terms. Joining up, signing up to the Brexit Party is the best investment you can ever make in the future of our great nation. So I need, and I hope I can I ask you, are you with us? Yeah! Will you take this message out to your friends and family where you live, not just for this European election or the Peterborough by-election or indeed the next general election in which we will contest every single seat? Will you stand and fight with us? Give me a board. Will you help us change politics for good? Thank you very much.